Alrighty, hello, thanks for joining me. My name's Gemma, this is the Fat Cat Detective Agency channel, but today I'm doing my reading statistics for the first quarter of the year. I've decided to do them quarterly rather than monthly, just because time and capacity and such, and to keep things fairly short, as I don't read dozens of books a month. So getting straight into it, let's start with January, where I read 7 books. It was a pretty good reading month. A mix of genres, making progress in a series with the Brother Cadfael series and the Murderbot Diaries, and The Golden Fool, which is book number 2 in the 20-man trilogy. Most of this month I read in a mixed format, so partially in the audio and partially in the physical copy. Only one book in a purely physical format, The Guest List by Lucy Foley, that was lent to me by a friend probably over a year ago now. So finally got around to reading it. Then in February I read more books in total in the month. I read 9 books, but it did include my lowest rated book of the whole quarter, which was The Sacrifice of Darkness. This is a graphic novel adaptation of a Roxane Gay short story, I believe. I hated it. It was just, the science was so bad. It was young adult, but I don't feel like that should have meant that you can just talk a load of nonsense and kind of pass it off as sci-fi. I'm fine with suspension of disbelief, but this took it too far. The premise of the story was that a man, a not rich man, just a humble miner, had bought a personal spacecraft and flown it into the sun, and the result of that was that the sun went out and the earth was plunged into darkness. This did not have any of some of the consequences that you might expect, such as, crop failure or the world freezing over or anything like that. No, it was just that everything was completely dark all the time. The town got around this problem by installing gas lights everywhere, gas lamps, and everything else was kind of functioning the same, apart from civil unrest and, the problems of wanting to reignite the sun. But I just couldn't get over the fact that the science was ridiculous. And I'm not even a scientific person, but even I knew that if you flew a small personal spacecraft into the sun, you would burn up in, as soon as you got anywhere near it. It wouldn't, extinguish the sun. Anyway, bit more serious progress with catching up with Heartstopper, again progressing Brother Cadfael, progress in the Saint of Steel series, and finishing off the Wolf Den trilogy with the Temple of Fortuna. I also read the fairly newly published Old Stories of Terry Pratchett, a collection of short stories. I didn't rate it though, because as I was reading the introduction, it became quite clear that he didn't particularly want these stories published. Like, he knew that they were his very early, very rough writing and they weren't all that good. And so I kind of felt bad for buying the book and owning it. I wouldn't want people buying something that I wasn't happy to publish. And yeah, they weren't great. They were really quite rough writing style. But because of that, I just didn't rate it. It's like, how can you fairly rate something that the author didn't want published? And then in March, 8 books, a kind of medium amount, mostly physical actually. It's really strange for me to read so many physical books and not have the audiobook as an accompaniment. I think that's because a lot of my audiobook time for that month was taken up listening to Rogues, which is an anthology. It's a chunky audiobook. I think it's like 32 or 36 hours long, because it's so many stories and they're not really all that short, some of the stories. That was a real mixed bag. A few of them I skipped over, DNF'd, and some I thought were great. So yeah, again, I didn't rate it because there was 1s and there was 5. I don't really have a feeling about what the average was. Some real duds though, with Once Upon a Crime by Fergus Craig. I've got a video coming up about that, or it might already be out. I don't know what order I'm doing these videos. And The Sinking Admiral, that video is definitely already up. What a waste of potential. And The Approach, actually, it was a horror graphic novel. And yeah, and then the rest of the books were pretty meh from that month, apart from 1984 by George Orwell, which I was really liking up until the point they got large sections of philosophical, political text. So it's kind of a book within a book, and our main character is reading that book out loud to another character, so you're listening to him reading it, and it just goes on for quite a while. It does add some world building and some important information, but not enough for me to pay attention the whole time. Like, I did find myself sort of, because I listened to it as well as reading it, I found myself kind of tuning out a bit. So that's why I only got a 4, not a 5. On to the actual statistics. So in total over the quarter, I read 24 books. My goal for the year is 100, so I'm actually slightly behind. I always try and read 12 non-fiction books a year. I only read one in this quarter. It was Maya Angelou's autobiography. My average rating was only 3.5. I feel like my average for the years tend to be around 3.7, 3.8. So this was not great. My TBR is currently sitting at 295 books as of the 1st of April. So it has gone up since the beginning of the year, mostly because I got bought a lot of books in February because that was my birthday month and we went to Hay-on-Wye, which is the town of books in Wales. I think I bought about 30 books there. You'd have to go back and watch my vlog of that trip to find the exact number. So yeah, that definitely pushed things up. In terms of the spend, £928.25. I know it's a lot, but a third of that was on one book. It was on my special edition, limited edition, Folio Society copy of The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. That is unboxed in my video for our special editions worth the money, or some title like that. It's basically the only video on my channel that's actually been watched a fair bit. Go and watch that if you like, but you've probably already seen it. And I had to extend the page a bit for some pie charts. So of the books read this quarter, 2/3 of them were from my existing TBR, so from before 1st of January this year. That's good. I want to get through my backlogged TBR, all of this, all of these, and that. About a third were bought this year and read this year. Also happy with that. And as I say, one was borrowed from a friend, but actually borrowed quite a while ago. In terms of the authors, I'm quite happy with that split. 50% new to me, one debut, so that was Frontier by Grace Curtis, and according to some shipping notifications, her second book is on the way to me now. Looking forward to that because Frontier was a 4.5. And then in terms of the format, I'm actually surprised that mixed isn't a higher percentage. I think March really swayed it towards the purely print format. Any month where I read a fair few graphic novels is going to lean more towards print, but overall in the year I expect that mixed percentage will increase. In terms of genre, mystery was my biggest genre, not a huge surprise, and then sci-fi, the next biggest. YA being so high is a bit surprising. And in terms of the kind of reading goals I've set for the whole year, actually multiple years for both of these, I read the World Challenge, read one international book this quarter. We had to remove this post. The author is from the Netherlands. The setting of the book I don't think is ever exactly specified, but I think we can assume it's probably in the Netherlands. So that brings my total up to 32 books out of 197. This is a project that's going to last many years. And then in February, I set myself a goal of 40 books to read before I turn 40 years old. And I've read 2 of those books as of the end of March. It's an okay rate. Like, I think I need to average 1.6 books a month. So 2 is okay, but it's not quite on track. From the classic section, as I said, 1984. And from the finishing off series section, Temple of Fortuna. In terms of my favourite books for the quarter, it's super easy to choose this quarter because I only had 3 5 stars. Hopefully next quarter I have more to choose from. And they are System Collapse by Martha Wells, the latest in the Medabot Diaries series. I actually prefer the books where the action is taking place in space, like either on a spacecraft or a space station. Not so much the planet-based ones, but I still love them. I still think they're great. Love Murderbot. I got a cute sticker with my order. And then, as just mentioned a moment ago, The Temple of Fortuna by Elodie Harper. This is a historical fiction set in ancient Rome, but not Rome the city, Rome the empire. It's mostly set in Pompeii. There are some points where the action moves to the capital. We've had the eruption of Vesuvius kind of haunting us in the background of the story for 2.5 books. And any book that makes me get teary-eyed about Pliny the Elder deserves 5 stars. But it's genuinely been fascinating to read, particularly the lives of sort of lower class Roman citizens, because the main character, Amara, starts the series working in a brothel in Pompeii. On the author's blog, she actually has some non-fiction books recommended that she used as research for writing. I'm really interested in reading them, but Upper Shelf here is chock full of non-fiction that I haven't read, so I haven't bought any, but maybe one day. And then my final top pick for the quarter, Heartstopper Volume 5. It's probably not my favourite of all of the volumes, but the series as a whole is a 5-star series for me. It's just so sweet. And so, you know, everyone is so in love. The relationship is getting put to the test throughout the books, but so cute. And this is the penultimate book. And yeah, that was how my first 3 months of 2024 went in terms of reading. I hope you had a good reading quarter as well. Let me know what was your top book for the quarter, and maybe also your worst book of the quarter. It would be interesting. I'd say maybe System Collapse is my top book of those 3. And my worst book was clearly The Sacrifice of Darkness. Thanks very much for watching. I'd love it if you subscribed if you haven't already, and also I've got a few other videos for you to choose from for your next watch. Sometimes I'm trying to solve murder mysteries in specific books, and sometimes they're more like general booktube books. Thanks very much. Bye.